Back on the Boulevard Thursday, April 11th. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network tonight. It's been 332 calendar days since the Arlington Renegades hoisted that prestigious XFL championship trophy, winning outright as a touchdown underdog that night and shattering the championship dreams of DC Defenders coaches, players, and myself. And while that's in the past now, DC, and we can maybe never get it back, okay, we definitely can't get it back. I'd be a liar if I said the chance to send the Renegades into an 0-3 tailspin didn't feel a little extra special this week for me as a Defenders fan. One man who witnessed the improbable Renegades championship was the producer, director, and owner of Studio Z, Chris Zook. Zook, last week the conversation was, could any team in the league afford to go 0-2? And this week, with only conference games, it becomes, who's going to separate themselves?
Yeah, you didn't let me comment. I loved every second of that championship game last year. Just want to go on record saying that. If I haven't, probably didn't, right?
The one game you go to the entire season.
No, I went to two.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You did. Yeah, I kind of wrote the Dragons off. They're a distant memory at this point. So
not in this guy's heart.
Well, at least you don't have to lose 4 in a row to DC now. But, yeah, I don't know if we'll get revenge this weekend. I don't think even if you win, you can get revenge because that was a championship game. But at least puts DC on the right course and leaves Arlington in the basement if DC pulls it off. On tonight's show, a deep dive into that XFL title rematch, which some are saying might not even be the game of the week in the UFL. The Brahmas going to try to stay perfect at home against St. Louis. And a few things nobody is talking about in that one that may lead to an edge that I definitely want to point out. So stick around for that one. We had our first significant quarterback injury just 2 weeks in to the regular season with Houston's Jarrett Garantano going to the IR. So enter Reed Sinnett. And he kind of sparked that offense last week. They were well on their way to beating DC until that huge turnover. So we'll break down how Sinnett could match up with that really tough Michigan defense. And, of course, our Week 3 best bets. So drop us a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We are on YouTube, Twitter, and X, and Facebook. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's take a quick look at our Week 3 standings. Again, no crossover games this weekend. So I think we could really see some separation in the standings. Some teams potentially going to 0-3, or it could go the other way, and some of these underdogs could win, and we could have complete chaos. Those are your UFL Week 3 standings. All right, let's move straight into our Saturday slate. We set it up for you in the intro already, but this one has all the makings of an instant classic because it's not only the XFL title rematch, but whoever loses this one is going to be at least one game, if not a full 2 games, out of the playoff race. It's the Defenders and Renegades at the UFL HQ in Arlington. This one currently a pick. Total, our highest of the week at 43.5. Forecast looks like 81 and partly cloudy, and some sustained winds up to 20 miles per hour. Let's start with that Renegade offense. They have all their skill position guys back from the squad who did put up 35 points in the XFL championship game win against DC last May. They also had 396 total yards that night. We're not going to focus solely on that, or else I'd probably walk off the set within 5 minutes. We're moving forward. So let's talk about this year and how the Defenders and Renegades match up. There's things, believe it or not, this season that Arlington is actually doing better than they were last year, even though they've started 0-2 with the league's toughest schedule. You got to give that to them. It starts with Luis Perez and this past game. Luis is completing 70% of his passes, 11 yards of completion, and he's spreading the wealth. 10 different receivers in the box score last week. And when you got that 4-receiver set of Javonte Pittman, Deontay Burnett. You can throw Tyler Vaughn's out there and Sal Cannella, who got a touchdown pass last week. That's very comparable to what DC faced in week 1 with the San Antonio Brahmas, and we saw how that went for them. Perez can go for 300 yards here against a pass defense that has some questions after the first 2 weeks of the season. You might be surprised to hear Renegades, number 1 offense in the league on third down, is 0-2. 54.5%. They're actually the only team in the UFL that's hitting above 50% on third down conversions. So we'll see how that contrasts with a really stout third down defense from DC. It's a down that Greg Williams will stress. DC only allowing opponents to under 20%. They're like 4 for 21 on defensive third downs. So I did give a slight edge to the Arlington offense against St. Louis's defense last week, and we saw kind of how that turned out. They delivered. It was not the offense that lost the Renegades that game in the Battle Dome. So I'm going to do it again here. Slight edge to the Arlington offense over the DC defense. The problem with the offense here is it's a non-existent run game. I haven't seen it yet, and we didn't see it last season either, so expect more Lindsey Scott Jr. to come in and fill that void. We were huge on him coming into last week, talked extensively about him. He scores a rushing touchdown, and he was very valuable on those point-after attempts. So look for Lindsey Scott. I think he could be a difference maker when it comes to this sort of game on what DC is going to prepare for. Again, that third down defense for the Defenders is for real. In fact, it probably won them the game against Houston, as we're seeing some of the footage here. To only have 2 games in, especially against San Antonio, who's one of the better offenses of the league in week 1, and to only give up 4 combined third downs in 2 weeks of action, I think Greg Williams is onto something. And I know there's been a lot of comments this week about his play calling and about going cover 0 on the final play of that game. It's high risk, high reward. We fly by the seat of our pants with Greg Williams, and when it pays off in absolute dividends for this defense. But Arlington's offense is surely underrated, and I do think, much like the last 2 meetings against DC, they will be able to put up some points. Let's take a look at the DC offense against a Renegade defense here who, honestly, hasn't really stopped anybody. Arlington is struggling on that side of the ball, and it's crazy to me because they look like one of the better defenses in the league in that first quarter against Birmingham. They turned over the Stallions. They looked really solid, but I think this is where DC has the edge offensively in this game. I know the loss of Abram Smith has made a massive impact, and it's really rearing its ugly head through the first 2 weeks here, and the other backs haven't quite looked the part. Defenders just the 6th rushing offense in the league with a dismal 3.2 yards per carry. But at its core, this is a run scheme. So it's only a matter of time, similar to last season, where they start settling in, figuring out the run blocking, figuring out how to get those tailbacks in holes. And I think that can only go up from here every week. This does seem like the perfect week to start establishing the run. If you're the Defenders, considering Arlington was gashed for 183 rushing yards in week 1. And last weekend, they go against a third-string running back, and he was out there looking like Aaron Jones in the open field. And I'm not taking any credit away from Mateo Durant. What he did was phenomenal, but, man, that Arlington run defense is a question mark. And the schedule has been brutal. They've faced 2 really tough teams, but, you know, plus they had the largest spring football crowd ever rooting against them, so that's certainly tough. But that doesn't change the fact that this defense, as you just saw, last against the pass, last against the run, and once again missing a few starters to injury on that side of the ball. which we warned you about that last week, that St. Louis was going to be able to take advantage of that. And guys, this becomes a real opportunity for Jordan Ta'amu to get some revenge. And, there isn't a couple of injury notes to keep an eye on for that DC offense. One was Kiki QT, who was banged up last week, but should be able to go. If not, Ty Scott will be counted on yet again. He's emerged as DC's leading receiver, and he's not even a starter. Chris Rowland is another guy you want to keep your eye on. I thought he played really well coming in for Puka Williams last week. And Briley Moore. Let me give a minute to Briley Moore. Congratulations getting the UFL to the top of the Sports Center top 10. That is something that spring football has not done yet. And Briley Moore, not even with Jake Bates, which we were shocked that the 62-yard field goal, or actually it was 65? Was not, 64, was not a number one play. It absolutely should have been. Kickers get no love. But only the very next week, Briley Moore made sure that the UFL was on the top 10 radar. So shout out him. I think big improvement for the DC offense from week 1 to week 2 is the theme here. Pretty sizable edge to the Defenders offense over the Renegades defense. And you put together everything we just talked about, you get points, and you're going to get a lot of points. There's a reason this is the highest total of the week. You look at last season, I think we had a 28-26 game in DC week 9, and then XFL title game was 35-26. Everybody's worried about the winds in North Texas. They've been practicing outside in them all week, and Texas is always windy in April, it seems, the last couple of years. So I'm not too concerned about the winds in this one. Of course, my Defenders are the pick here. They opened as a 2-point favorite. They actually end up a dog, sort of. It's kind of a pick. But, man, that over is looking sexy, Zook.
You're not going to like my response to this. I think Arlington just got that scheme. I think they use it the same way they did last year in the championship game. Your offense has only gotten worse. And I know that you're saying...
Yeah. You're still stuck on this Arlington made the blueprint to beat DC thing, aren't you?
I'm not stuck on it. I'm just saying that I think Stoops figured it out, and your offense got worse. Now Arlington's defense got worse.
Yeah.
So
Renegades still taking some money, though. I mean, like I said, they opened up a 2-point dog. Now at -1, you could still get the Renegade money line for cheaper than you can get DC, but it seems like a coin flip from odds makers' eyes.
It is. It's tough. This is a tough game to call. I'm just giving a slight edge to Arlington. I haven't seen enough out of either team to be real confident to bet this game at all.
Yeah, the bounce back spot is huge, too. That's something odds makers look at. And for Arlington, your back's against the wall. You could not go 0-3 in this league and make the playoffs. You just don't have enough time, especially when that's going to give a win to DC, put them at 2-1 if you lose this game. I mean, depending on how, like if St. Louis were to beat San Antonio, then you have 3 2-1 teams at the top of the league, and Arlington sitting at 0-3, you might as well write the season off at that point. So this is a must-win game for them. Ultimately, I think DC's offense will find the run game and do enough to get it done in Choctaw Stadium. All right, that takes us to Saturday night. Home opener for the Birmingham Stallions under the lights after their defense really dominated early on in the season. I mean, 2-0 start. It's the Showboats and the Stallions, and Skip Holtz went 2-1 against John DeFilippo's Breakers in last year's USFL. The home squad here favored by 7.5. Total sits at 41. Forecast looking good, mid-60s and clear. Really nice night for football. So this is your chance, Stallion fans. You got to show out now as back-to-back USFL champs, and this would be a big one for you guys to potentially extend that winning streak to 10 games. Have not lost in a while. So how can the Ponies extend their win streak to 10? Well, it's pretty simple in this one, and it's the defense for the Birmingham Stallions. It's really men against boys at this point up front for the Stallions, and really at least for the first two offenses. that tried to score on them. I don't really expect Saturday to be much different. In fact, we can even take a look at some of the defense that Birmingham's been able to put up so far. Taco Charlton has been an absolute nightmare, and we expected him to be that. There's a reason. He was a first-round NFL draft pick. Birmingham's leading the league with 9 sacks. They had 7 against Michigan. They rank second against the pass and the rush, and actually in takeaways as well. They could be a little bit better on third down, but for the most part, this is overall the best defense on the USFL side. I'm not ready to say it's the best defense in the league yet. It probably is, but I want to see a few more tests up against some high caliber quarterbacks and see how they do. Case Cookus could be one of those. We saw times in the Michigan game where the Birmingham offense kind of sputtered a little bit in the red zone, but when it came time to lock down and win this game and close it out, it was the defense that slammed the door shut on the Panthers and even the Renegades in week 1. Michigan had 2 trips to the red zone. One resulted in an A.J. Thomas pick, and the other one, they got a ton of QB hurries and a couple sacks, and we find out towards the end of that game, E.J. Perry might have got dinged up a little bit, not practicing this week with an ankle. That could be pretty significant. Birmingham defense has only allowed 2 touchdowns the entire season. It's not going to be easy for Memphis here to score. However, Mark Gilbert, the Stallions' top corner and one of the top corners in the UFL, not practicing this week due to personal reasons. We will monitor that. That's something to keep an eye on. For Memphis offensively, Darius Victor, their tailback, hurt, as well as a starting tackle. So, again, injuries matter, especially when we're talking about betting. Case Cook is taking far too many hits last week. He ended up on the ground constantly. He battled through and finished the game, but you got to protect your quarterback. I will say I was impressed with the Memphis pass game to start things out against San Antonio last weekend. I expect them to take a step forward in the red zone, where they were just 1 of 6 in last weekend's game and really just awful the entire season. They've been 2 for 9. They've left so many points on the board. Have the Showboats. Can really only go up from here, but I still think a real solid edge goes to that Birmingham defense. This is John Chavis, former SEC defensive coordinator, and this front 7 is a quarterback nightmare. I mean, Charlton breaks out, like we said, 3 sacks with him. And even the linebackers, you got Gates, Scooby Wright, and the secondary has been good when it counted. So this Birmingham Stallions defense has the chance this week to prove to me that they are the best defense in the UFL, and ultimately defense is what's going to win you a championship. We saw the last 2 seasons in the USFL, Birmingham had a few blips, but they have a lot of a different makeup on that side of the ball now, bringing a lot of new guys in that had NFL experience. I mean, just on the defensive front alone, Charlton, who might lead the UFL in sacks when it's all said and done this year, first-round pick. I mean, you take a guy like that and you put him against offensive lines in the UFL, which have been struggling a little bit as of late. He's going to be a quarterback nightmare, and I don't know if that Memphis offensive line can hold up. Let's flip sides of the ball. Let's look at the Stallion offense against that Memphis defense. Memphis defensively, what do we make of them? For as bad as giving up 20 points in the fourth quarter might sound, I don't know if I'm ready to define this defense by what they showed in the fourth quarter of that game. This is the UFL's #1 rush offense in Birmingham. You see Martinez going for over 10 yards a carry, averaging a first down every time he takes off, against a Memphis defense who's #1 in the UFL against the run. So we got to touch on this quarterback situation in Birmingham to figure out what is Skip Holtz going to show us this week. It's been a revolving door, sort of a two-horse race between Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez. For as good as the front sevens in this league have been, nobody has been able to sack Corral or Martinez. They've been getting away from pressure better than any quarterbacks in this league. Just 1 sack allowed in 2 games. And I credit the offensive line for that as well. But specifically Martinez, 10 yards a carry? I mean, you're doing that. Why even call a play? It's just quarterback scramble. You could try to spy him, but he's actually second in the league in overall rushing yards. He's beating like 7 or 8 starting running backs through that category. So to me, the run game's okay. Pass game took a big step back in week 2 for Birmingham, and I think that's kind of a byproduct of a 2-quarterback system. And I know it sounds cliche, but not being able to get guys in rhythm and ultimately just rotating tendencies and different routes that receivers are running, it just seemed like they weren't on the same page. They only had 141 yards passing last week. That was the lowest in the UFL. They also struggled in the red zone, only 1 for 6 in red zone touchdown chances. So I think you're going to see a bounce back from the Stallion offense. Again, both these teams, Stallions and the Boats, left so many points on the board in week 2. They kicked 4 field goals each, a lot of those inside the 10-yard line. Both of them fumbled snaps on 3rd and goal, like right on the short porch. So I think the Stallions will definitely clean that up. And if I'm Skip Holtz, I'm coming out throwing it with Matt Corral. I mean, you have the receivers to do it. You got to let Matt Corral get in a rhythm here. And I'm sure they're going to look at how San Antonio exposed that Memphis secondary and kind of prey on that. So edge to the Stallions offense here. Not as big of an edge as their defense will provide them in this game, but I think they can get into the high 20s with ease here. So the Ponies are the pick for me this week. I also lean the over in this one. I think there's some 1 for 6 being an outlier in the red zone for both teams. I don't think you see 5 missed opportunities from both sides in the red zone again. I have no real take on the spread. I think the number's probably right around good, but yeah, I'm leaning the over here. Zook, who you got?
Well, I'm not taking Memphis until I see a second half from them. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So pretty easy pick. I'm taking Birmingham.
3-0 start.
As far as the spread goes, it's pretty fair. If you look at the line, it don't pay much either way.
Yeah, I didn't have an advantage on that. I feel like if you're gonna, the only play would be Birmingham really for me. But again, losing value going.
It was tempting to take the 7.5 on the other side.
You think so? Yeah,
it was
I don't
tempting.
see that.
Didn't do it,
Right.
but I thought about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough from Memphis. Again, maybe we're lower on Memphis than a lot of you out there. I still had them 7 in the power rank, even at 1-1 with that win over Houston. I'm going to continue to treat them. I'm not putting you above anybody else when you only beat Houston so far. I mean, I understand they won 59 minutes of football last week, but I'm not about to take them 7.5, but I do kind of lean the over in that one. Those are our Saturday games. Quick reminder to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We had some inside the drive action. I love that the UFL posted this, and we wanted to share it with you guys from that Brahmas final drive. Check it out.
Ready, go!
Tampa 2. Oh, he didn't
get
make
it?
He didn't make it. He
Forward
made it.
progress!
First them. Let's go. Let's go. No, it stops, but it starts right now. Let's go.
Red,
Spike it. What the hell? Let's go.
Navy SEAL, Navy SEAL. Red, divide special. That's the check. Hey, hold. Divide special.
Let me know if we need a timeout.
Frisco. Red, ready, go.
Sack his ass.
Yeah. That's not a low
7.
Clock it. Clock it. Clock it.
I know, it's first down.
Ready, go. That's not a low hit.
You got to stop the clock after first down?
Yeah.
Huddle. Mac, you stand in. Irish.
Let's go!
We're on the right hash.
Nickel scissors. Just keep the ball in bounds.
Nickel scissors. Nickel scissors.
Keep the ball in bounds. We're going to have to end up defending a Hail Mary.
Special. Fire zone. Break.
Hey, fire right.
Fire right. Snap it.
AB.
Snap it.
AB.
Ready, go.
Oh, my God.
Hey, we're going to clock this.
Oh, my God.
Get out of
All
bounds.
the way.
Oh, my God, guys.
Let's go. Let's go.
Huddle. 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 Huddle.
Come on.
Coach, you want to use the timeout here?
21. Let's go. 20
I know, Kirk.
seconds.
Coach, do you want the timeout?
You stay in, Mac. We got to go. Stay in. Stay in. Frisco. 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 Ready, go.
Go it quick. Oh, okay. All right, let's go. You still got time.
There's a blitzer. There's a fucking blitzer. I'm killing it. I understand. I would have got sacked.
Come on, John!
Did we get fresh guys in there? We did. Thank you. Thank you.
Where's 92?
Oh, Navy.
Let's go, come on, let's go.
Red, you're staying in. Red.
Nickel uno. Nickel uno.
Frisco. Frisco.
Hey. You got 3.
Ready, go.
91, go!
Speedy.
Get 90 out.
Speedy. I would have got sacked. So I was killing him. GTFO. Get the fuck open.
Scissors.
Coach, let me know if you want it.
Scissors fire. Hey, lead.
Frisco.
3.
Frisco.
3.
Ready, go.
He got it! Yes! Stay back! Go for 2! Go for 2! Hey! Going for 2! God damn it! Going for 2! We're going for 2!
Good game, boys.
Going for 2!
Man, I could watch an entire game like that. And that's not taking anything away from the broadcasters. I think they've been phenomenal in the UFL, but what a way to go inside the drive. I would love to see that every single week. And I'm not taking all the credit, but I did say to A.J. Smith in warm-ups, I'd love to see GTFO in person, Coach. If the Brahmas are hiring, I'll come on your offensive support staff. Anything to get away from Zook, who picks against DC every week. Straight into the Sunday ABC doubleheader we got going. And if you flip the CBS on commercial, you might see some long drives, but you're not going to in this game. It's the Roughnecks and the Panthers. Michigan favored by 2.5 in their third straight home game. This is the Lowest total we've seen all season at 38.5. Forecast yet again ideal for Jake Bates to see his third straight game hitting one from 60 plus. I think the only chance for any semblance of offense in this game comes from Reed Sinnett, who really looked the part in last week's loss to DC. When Jarrett Garantano was named the starter, I thought that said a lot about him, that this coaching staff was willing to place the faith in him. Even a guy like Eric Price, who has been OC everywhere, even back to Alabama before the Saban era. So I had some confidence in Garantano getting back to his SEC caliber ways when he was at Tennessee. But, you know, Sinnett does have more NFL experience, and it makes you wonder if Houston would be sitting in this same position had Reed Sinnett been the day one starter. But now he's going to get his chance. Garantano goes to the IR. I'm sure Roughneck fans were happy with what they saw on Sunday. It was definitely some progress. In fact, only Garbers, McCarron, and Perez threw for more yards than Sinnett did. He didn't even come in until like the third or fourth drive of this ball game. So it became evident that DC's game plan was solely focused on Garantano and his ability to run the ball. And when Sinnett came in, that threw him off balance. So it looks like Houston will be forced to throw some more because Mark Thompson doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon. Hasn't practiced yet. USFL Offensive Player of the Year last season, was marketed in the trailer as one of the stars. Just unfortunate he has not been able to play for this fan base. And because of that, just 46 yards per game on the ground for the Roughnecks. They also have some injuries at receiver. Kirk Merritt, who was tracked down on what would have been a touchdown. I mean, really tough for him. You go from green grass in front of you, about to go up by 2 scores and be the hero to knock off DC, to land on your wrist and go right to the injury report. Justin Hall, another receiver, was also pretty shaken up near the end of the game, so keep an eye on that. But ultimately, the Panthers' defense has continued to impress me. They've continued to limit the 2 best teams in the league. Again, really tough schedule for Colin Bauer as DC here to kind of navigate these 2 offenses. And they've held teams to just 30% in the red zone so far. Frank Ginda leading the UFL in tackles. So despite Sinnett providing the spark, I think I give a big edge to the Panther defense here. Let's focus on the Michigan offense now against that Roughneck defense, flipping sides of the ball. Another big defensive edge for me. Michigan continuing to rely on explosive plays, which are great when they happen, but absolutely not sustainable. And it seems like when you're watching this offense, it's either a 50-plus yard touchdown or like a 2-yard loss or a sack or something negative. For the Panthers at this point, dead last in the league in passing offense, which is wild considering those explosive plays. They have 4 completions of 40 yards or more. That's tops in the league by far. E.J. Perry only completing 56% of his passes. That's last in the league. Also leads the league in interceptions with 3. And to make matters worse for Panthers fans, I guess depending on how you see it, he's actually nursing an ankle, so he hasn't practiced this week. He may not play. Wes Hills, the running back, nowhere to be found against Birmingham last week. 7 carries for 10 yards. They lose wide receiver Devin Ross to the IR, and that really starts to hurt because he was looking like a wide receiver 1. Marcus Sims kind of stepped up with a big 78-yard touchdown catch last week, but now he's a little banged up as well. He's been out of practice, so that Michigan offensive line, who gave up 7 sacks against the Birmingham Stallions, is going to have their hands full with Reuben Foster, who has been a force to be reckoned with. Might be the best defensive player in the league. Roughnecks defense, let's highlight them. They lead the league in TFLs. They're limiting opponents to 2.5 yards per carry. So if you haven't figured it out yet from what I'm saying, take the under. I mean, you got the worst 2 offenses in the UFL here, and Jake Bates can't kick 13 field goals to cover 38.5 himself. I shouldn't say Jake Bates can't do anything. He probably could. And just because I said that, he's probably going to have 13 field goals. But that's not going to cash the over on its own. I do expect this one to be close. So special teams and defense will matter. I really went back and forth on this one, but I ultimately trust Michigan's defense a little bit more. Remember, they have faced the only 2 starting quarterbacks in the UFL that were also NFL draft picks with Matt Corral and A.J. McCarron. And they really limited those 2 guys. So Panthers are the pick for me. And I think this is the under spot of the year. I have not seen a more attractive under this entire season so far. Zook, let me guess.
Going the other way.
Yeah, of course.
Houston. We
Wow.
got to take them. Listen,
That confident in Sinet, huh?
I like them. Well, you know I like them. Right?
Former Eagle.
That's
Good to
right.
see.
You know,
So just tell us your pick is bias and move on.
it's not really biased.
No, he did look good. He did look good.
With a full week of first team reps.
Yeah.
He looked pretty damn good last week, right? Now he got first team reps all week. I like him. That Michigan defense is stout, so we're going to see how he holds up against that. But ultimately, this might be a little foreshadowing for my best bet.
Does Houston score more than 15 points?
Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm going to peg them around 19 to 21, somewhere in there. It
Michigan's-
depends on do you go for 1, 2, or 3 kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, Michigan's been for real on that defensive side of the ball. So Zook and I seeing that one a little differently, as we normally do, and I'm sure as we will in this next one, which some are calling the game of the weekend. Wade Phillips, Anthony Becht, XFL conference showdown between 2 high-flying offenses that put up some real numbers through the air last week. It's the Battlehawks at the Brahmas. Spread favoring Kaká by 1. Total at 42. Forecast looking like fireworks inside. So bring your earplugs, folks. When these 2 quarterbacks are slinging it, this is going to be a ball game. And I want to focus on the St. Louis offense first, who really found that run balance in week 2 with a guy by the name of Mateo Durant, the former Duke Blue Devil, comes off the bench, inactive in week 1. Rips off 104 yards and a score. He's now top 3 in the league in rushing. Just 1 start under his belt. In fact, first player ever in UFL history to go over 100 yards. So you can't ignore what Durant did, but it's going to be a much bigger challenge this week for him. That is a formidable San Antonio front that he's going against, and they might actually be missing up to 4 guys, including some interior linemen up front. They have been the second best rush defense in the league, only allowing 56 yards per game. Will Reed and Wade Phillips have it rolling. So even if St. Louis doesn't find that same run success, you still got A.J. McCarron. And he just thrives in these late game situations. They shouldn't have lost to Michigan at the end there. That was a defensive debacle. They bounce back in week 2 and show you what this pass offense can do. You cannot leave any time on the clock when you've got McCarron back there. And in fact, St. Louis learned we're not going to leave any time on the clock for our opponents ourselves. Notice what they did late in that game against Arlington. They sat on it. They took it down. They kick a field goal. They were not giving the ball back to Arlington in that situation. That was real heads-up coaching by Anthony Becht. Marcel Aitman, best wide receiver in the league through 2 games. He leads the UFL in yardage and touchdowns. But you have to think he's going to start drawing a little more attention. I saw the Brahmas signed Cam Dantzler, former Minnesota Vikings starter. I don't think he'll be able to go this week, but that's interesting because they might be a little banged up in the secondary. I know Darius Phillips was dealing with an injury, so watch out for Aitman. And even if you take him out of the picture, you still got Darius Shepard and Hakeem Butler. So it's a no-win situation for the San Antonio secondary here. AJ doesn't pick favorites in this offense. He just picks open. If you're open, you're getting the ball. He's hands down the best quarterback in the league, especially when it comes to going through the progressions. and finding open guys. And more importantly, he doesn't throw picks. Through 2 weeks, only quarterback in the UFL to not throw an interception, of course, is A.J. McCarron. I do expect him to get sacked a few times like he did against Michigan. But edge to the Battlehawks offense and Bruce Gradkowski, the OC here. It's not going to be easy. San Antonio has only allowed 1 touchdown on the season, but I think St. Louis will be able to put some points up. I have faith in McCarron. I think Shepard at this point is leading the league in targets. They've just been phenomenal. When it comes to that San Antonio offense against the Battlehawks defense, there might be a strange edge for St. Louis here that absolutely nobody is talking about, and that is third-string quarterback Brandon Silvers. You're probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about? Well, hear me out. We like to get into strange connections here on Springball Boulevard. It just so happens Brandon Silvers, who has been holding A.J. McCarron's clipboard this year as the third-string quarterback, knows this A.J. Smith offense like he knows a good time at Floribama. So, for what it's worth, that clipboard might have some secrets on it this week. So keep that in mind. Of course, the real edge is going to be decided by the players on the field. But how will that affect? That's some gamesmanship. A.J. Smith, of course, smart enough to know that the quarterback who started for his Roughnecks throughout the entire XFL 2023 season is standing on the opposite sideline. So are we getting a little bit of a change in terminology? And things are different when you're a quarterback. A lot of players have been, from one team to another, and you could probably make this same example for a lot of different squads, but it's different when it's a quarterback, especially when he's not playing and he has the opportunity to serve as a second offensive coordinator and a game manager for A.J. McCarron, which is ultimately why A.J. brought him in. You notice Brandon Silvers got signed the night before A.J. announced his big deal? They're buddies. They go back to their days on the Alabama Gulf Shores. They play golf together. And I'm telling you right now, this is the week where that kind of thing matters. But, like I said, we're going to talk about the players that are actually on the field. And one of the best ones will be Brahmas quarterback Chase Garbers, coming off an inexplicable 275 yards passing in only the second half of that win over Memphis. Here's the difference this week. San Antonio has been dreadful on third down. Just 4 of 19. Last in the league. That's a big contrast from Arlington, who hit over 50% of their third down tries against the same St. Louis defense last week. So, the Battlehawks secondary, they might not be able to contain Stevenson, Kirkland, Latimer, but it's not going to matter if Garbers doesn't have time to get them the ball. So, I know he's been really good outside the pocket. He showed off his legs in the comeback last week, but the Brahmas have a big problem on the offensive line from an injury standpoint. Last week, left tackle Derek Kelly out. He's now practicing in a limited fashion, but we don't know if he's playing yet. And then the center, Alex Millette, who is the anchor of this line, goes down mid-game last week and moves to the IR. Now, I do have to give the Brahmas some credit because they had only 6 offensive linemen last weekend, 1 backup for all 5 spots after Kelly and Millette went down, and they still scored 20 in the fourth. So, Andre Gurode is the offensive line coach there. He should have won Coach of the Week. That was a pressure situation where if even one more guy gets hurt, even a cramp, you got your last offensive lineman running onto the field to snap the ball. So Millette's going to hurt. We'll see about Kelly, but they're thin up front. We've seen some real disasters happen on offensive lines this season. You think about Michigan giving up 7 sacks to Birmingham, Houston jumping off sides, basically costing them a chance to win the game against DC last week. It's been shaky. So will the Brahmas fall victim to that this week, to a hungry St. Louis defensive line featuring Travis Feeney and Pita Taumopenu. Also, what about the kicking game? I'm sure you guys heard about destroying. Very serious, unfortunate injury. Just tough that he doesn't even get to kick a field goal. And, you know, that was a real bright spot for the UFL. And just gutting for him to, you know, you want to live your dream out. You know, he was telling everybody, I'm finally a football player. This is what I wanted to do. And have all that support and really everybody rooting for him. And then just a bang, bang play. And you would really love to see a positive come from that injury and see him bounce back. And hopefully by the time he's back, we go to that XFL kickoff where he's not going to have that opportunity to be another high-speed collision like he was with this kickoff. But the Brahmas did sign a kicker, and Zook, he is 6'5", 250. Ryan Santoso. Big Toe Santoso. I think I just made a nickname for him. So I don't think that kick returners are getting past him unless they can outrun him, because that is a hoss kicking the ball off. So he's gonna be thrown right into this situation, have to kick off, and kick field goals. So give me the Battlehawks. I was actually pretty surprised that that's opened up St. Louis -2. And a lot of you are probably saying, what, you thought Brahmas would be favored? No, I actually thought St. Louis would be favored by more than 2. I think I'm getting a steal here. I thought this would be like 3.5 or 4. And for the third time this week, Zook is, of course, going to disagree with me because he's got some confidence in A.J. Smith after what they did last week.
I mean, first of all, yeah, I'm taking San Antonio. I'm not going to agree with you. My reasoning is, why would I?
Just be blunt.
My reasoning is that defense is going to shore up those penalties. They gave a ton of first downs.
150 yards of penalties. Yeah.
6 or 7 first downs off of penalties. And, man, that offense is going to open up. It's going to. They're going to get started on the right foot. I like San Antonio's defense way better than St. Louis's. And for that reason, I'm picking the Brahmas.
Seems to be the popular pick this week. And we could see that with the line movement. Again, opened at St. Louis -2. Now down to just about a pick. I think you can get the Battlehawks money line at like -120 at some shops. So if you like the Brahmas, you sort of missed your window there to maybe get them +2. I mean, points really matter here. But Zook, before we get out of this game, does any of that make sense to you about Brandon Silvers and kind of where I'm going there? Does that create any problems when you have a guy who knows your offense inside and out like that?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong at all. When you can change terminology, but you're not hearing their terminology all that much.
Right.
You still know the scheme and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to attack.
If it wasn't a quarterback, I wouldn't be worried.
I don't think you're wrong at all.
Yeah.
And coming out of my mouth, I can't believe I just said it.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely think it's an advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the NFL, they sign guys from the other squad just to get that intel and then drop them. It's a real thing. It's 100% real.
You know Brandon Silvers is running that scout team in practice this week, and they are going full GTFO. Like, that's what they're playing defense against, and they're simulating A.J. Smith. And, you know, A.J. Smith is a guy who handpicked Brandon Silvers a couple years ago when the XFL was announced early on to be his quarterback in Houston. Now, things didn't work out because a lot of San Antonio fans were thinking, okay, they're going to draft Silvers. He was available. They passed on him. They went Chase Garbers and Quentin Dormady, 2 quarterbacks they took over him. So it clearly didn't work out between Smith and Silvers. And then AJ goes and gets him and says, let's go beat these guys.
Right. And did they pass? I guess I don't want to be too crazy, but did they pass on him because of his attitude?
I don't know. I think Silvers was yeah, I mean, he definitely had some moments last year where, you know, and it kind of, you get that from every quarterback, but you're right. He definitely had his moments. And I think it was more about, and John DeFilippo says this, a mobile QB. And I think maybe that's why Garbers won the job over Dormady, is because Garbers has some wheels on him. And remember, A.J. Smith, his favorite quarterback to ever play with was P.J. Walker, who dominated the XFL in 2020.
Sure,
So,
but wait, go back to that video that we watched in the little break there. Yeah, Garbers is yelling at the sideline, I got to get rid of it. I'm going to get sacked. Yeah. I'm pretty sure A.J. can say, all right, fine. They're not talking about the pick that Brandon threw instead. You see what I mean? There's a big difference there.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Garber's just rolling right every single time. I mean, it just like naturally rolling it. It was something Silvers couldn't do, and it limited that offense. And they were trying to bring Cole McDonald in sometimes. And yeah, I think Chase Garbers is much more fit in this offense. But I do wonder how that's going to feel for Silvers. And I don't know, interesting thing that makes me more confident in Battlehawks money line this weekend. So keep an eye on that. So those are your games. The Springball Boulevard Battle of the Brands Tour is taking a week off. So I don't have a sticky note best bet with a flight menu to put out on Twitter for you this week. However,
that's my fault.
I will be in Studio Z here.
Right.
Enjoying a weekend in front of the 7 screens that we have here at the Zook Book to enjoy some UFL action. Again, Battle of the Brands Tour focused on crossover games. This weekend, we're getting all conference matchups. We'll be back on the road week 4 for a crossover game that, especially when you think about Springball Boulevard in our history, is going to get interesting. So I don't want to give it away, but I'm pretty sure if you look at week 4, you can find out where I'm going. Let's get right into best bets for week 3. Talked about a lot of these, kind of foreshadowed on some.
Light this week, you see that?
Yeah, and again, that's okay because we take 5 plays last week and we do pretty good. I think as a show we go 4-2-2, or no, we go like 4-1-1 or something. It wasn't bad for our 5 plays. I know I had a push in there.
Your math is horrible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
3-1.
I didn't go to Penn State for math.
We went 3-1-1.
There you go.
5 plays.
Yeah.
The first 2
I
scenarios.
4-2-2. Yeah, we don't have enough room to fit 7 plays.
The first 2 scenarios, not even close.
Well, we have 3 this week for you. I think under spot of the season here. You have 2 offenses that have not been able to get it going. I get it. Reed Sinnett, maybe a spark. I just feel like this is 12-9. Zook's not going to like to hear that because that's not going to get him a cover because he's going.
Houston, let's go.
Plus the 2.5.
We're taking my boy. If I'm going to take him in the straight game pick, I'm sure as hell going to take the 2.5.
They have a pretty good kicker themselves in J.J.
Right?
Molson, who I know you like Molson.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Zook might have to have a cold Molson this weekend if Houston comes through because I think this one's going to come down to field goals.
You might be right, but I like the points. I think Houston wins outright, and I could have took more bang for my buck. Yeah. But again, if you watched the show last year, I'm trying to win money here, so I'll take the 2.5 and probably call it a day. You know.
Yeah, I think it should be closer. I'm surprised this isn't a pick already. I think you jumping on that early. If you're looking at Houston, you might want to get it in soon because I don't know if E.J. Perry's playing. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. Danny Etling is the backup in Michigan, came in last week, fumbled on his second play. But I'm not going to define Danny Etling by that turnover.
Yeah, we don't know.
He's just a different quarterback. He's more of a runner.
For me, I'll take the 2.5 if EJ's playing, and that was part of my decision.
Yeah, Houston also brought back Kenji Bahar, who was their starting quarterback for the Gamblers last year. He's now that QB3 with Garantano going down. Also taking Battlehawks money line. I think that's a safe play. I know it's not going to be a popular one, but I do feel like that offense is going to hit its rhythm, and I think San Antonio might struggle a little bit up front on the offensive line, and I don't think they can outscore St. Louis. So that's the best bets for week 3. We go right into the People's Gambler back for week 3 DFS.
Stardom, Jordan Tiamu. This is the ultimate revenge spot for Tiamu, who faces off against the team he lost to in the XFL Championship a year ago. Arlington's defense ranks the worst in the league, giving up the most points and yards on average per game. With a Swiss cheese secondary like Arlington, Tiamu has the ability to rack up big points for your DFS lineup and could be the highest scoring quarterback of the weekend. Start Jordan Tiamu. Situm, Mateo Durant. Durant had a breakout game last week, rushing for over 100 yards and being the first player in the league to do so. But his performance was a bit of a fluke as he was going up against the league's worst defense in Arlington. I expect Durant to have high ownership in DFS this week, and I'm not willing to chase his success after a small sample size. Sit Mateo Durant. Sleeper, Anthony Ratliff Williams. AR Dub enters week 3 looking to fill the role of wide receiver 1 for the Roughnecks with the recent injuries to Kurt Merritt and Justin Hall. Reed Sinnett provided a much-needed spark for the Houston offense and will look to him to be a reliable target. AR Dub was quiet in the receiving game last week but was targeted 6 times and recorded over 100 kick return yards. Don't be surprised to see this dynamic playmaker get in the end zone for the Roughnecks this weekend. Sleeper, Anthony Ratliff Williams. Follow me on Twitter at peoples_gambler for my full DFS lineup, and we will see you next week.
This is the weekend. I'm feeling it. TPG, 3 for 3. He's been money on the Situms. The Situms have been phenomenal. Sleepers are the hardest one, right?
Yeah.
Stardoms have been so-so, but I will say, based on his DFS advice last weekend, I won a small pool with my friends and cashed out a little bit. So go hit TPG with a follow. I think he's on to something, especially with 10 in red. Stardom, yeah. I didn't mention it in best bets. I was very close to pulling the trigger on DC Arlington over. We talked about it in the preview of that game. A lot of points. I'm not scared of the wins. I just feel like when you're gusting up to 30 miles an hour, it might be a little bit of an issue for 2 quarterbacks who want to throw the ball.
I know I've been rough on him with the sleeper thing, but obviously that's the hardest part. He's killing it. Yeah, he's killing it on the other 2. But you're not supposed to be able to just pull a sleeper out of your.
Yeah, and there's a salary limit. You can't be sleeper with a guy who's $5,000 and above. You got to look for someone that you can build your lineup around. And Zook, I still want you to put your first lineup in. You haven't done it yet. You've been kind of seeing what TPG does, and I want you to see. I want to see.
It's
your
not
DFS.
about that. I'm telling you. Otherwise, production-wise, I am busy. Like tomorrow morning, back to Philly. You know what I mean? Just got home from. I got home from Philly at 3:00. To get ready for this show, and I'm going right back in the morning.
And that wasn't even for WrestleMania. He's on the grind. He's running a business, folks.
So, you know.
Zook never sleeps.
We'll be
That's
back.
probably my fault.
We'll be back Sunday, just in time to run another show.
Of course. This is UFL season. Actually, there's no such thing as football season. That will do it for us tonight. For the producer, director, and owner of Studio Z, Chris Zook, I'm Matty Fresh. Enjoy week 3 of the UFL. Again, all conference matchups makes things pretty interesting for that playoff race that will about to heat up. And just remember, there is no such thing as football season. We'll see you Sunday night.